The other is the sexual desire of the prince for Lady Perfect, which, when she says no to him, immediately translates into the threat of violence. These two authorities are shown to be destructive and ultimately self-defeating. I mean, the prince's desire for Lady Perfect, in fact, is against his father's wishes and threatens to destroy the kingdom. So that kind of building in of the self-defeating nature of patriarchy. The plot hinges, however, on an overt contrast between two different definitions of marriage, and these are bound up with a concept of feminine identity. There's the Catholic notion of the indissolubility of marriage as a sacrament, and this is associated with the romantic love of the young couple. This is contrasted to the civil bond of marriage for material interest, which can be subject to annulment and divorce, because it is purely a legal definition. And that's represented by Lord Donato, and comically accurate subplot, by the way. The subplot, I'll jump ahead because I think our time is going to be short. The contrast in this understanding of religion and sexuality is most fully developed in scene 21 of this play, in which Lady Perfect, in resisting the prince's advances, identifies her marriage with her conscience, her vow, herself, her integrity. Much of the play deals with these contrasting views in terms of the understanding of female identity. Under the civic definition, paternalistic, prudential, and Protestant, the earlier marriage is annulled by the authority of Lord Donato, automatically changing the virtuous wife, Lady Perfect, into a whore, a distasteful object. He calls her my son's leavings. She herself recognizes that in the patriarchal system in which the female is defined by her body, she has no meaning. She is neither wife, virgin, nor widow. In the romantic and sacramental definition of marriage, however, she is eternally wed to her beloved first husband, and any subsequent relationship would be both bigamous and dishonest, fragmenting her. Though the law hath made a divorce, yet death hath not dissolved the marriage. Though the law hath set my person free, my conscience is not yet at liberty, nor will the love I gave away return. So the romantic love and the concept of eternal marriage. Well, Lady Perfect flees from this no-win situation into the shelter of the convent. The monastery itself, like her mother, the beneficent female authority, finds a social solution and accommodates the merit of faithfulness. What happens is that the son's wife conveniently dies, so he's then free to go back to his first wife, Lady Perfect. Oh no, she's taken vows and now is in a convent. What are they going to do? So they decide to commit suicide together through the grate. And they're going to plunge a sword through the grate as an image of both division and unity. Well, this is, of course, conventional convent-lured Gothic plot. And the monks actually have a lot more common sense than this and reject this tragic proto-Gothic ending and those conventional expectations, seeing the suicide obviously as sinful, but also as against marital love. And so they, in a kind of mockery of Catholic ecclesiastical authority, create a new religious order that will allow the young couple to live together happily ever after in the shelter of the monastery. So they are now sheltered from the world, in the process founding a new race of happily married people in contrast to the forces of greed and lust. So there's your Disney-esque ending that she puts in. But the facilitators are the nice monks. The blocking male authority figures, that's the prince and the bad father, both receive enlightenment and belatedly give the couple their blessing. Another interesting fact is that the couple are children themselves at the time of their marriage and their first love. So there's an emphasis on innocence and paralleling that of genuine religious devotion as opposed to prudential concerns. And also the fact that they are both children and thus both equally subject to familial disposition of their bodies in marriage occludes any gender hierarchy between them. They are both equally subject to their families and equal in their relationship. And that hierarchy does not belong in Cavendish's new romantic order. This gets kind of cool. Jumping ahead to Mr. Dryden, and I love this portrait. It's relatively recently discovered of a relatively young John Dryden, John Michael Wright portrait. So this is about 42. Marriage à la mode came just before. It was much more successful. But the assignation for Love in a Nunnery, 1673, This is one of a cluster of plays that Dryden writes in this time. I've written on this quite a bit, where he deals directly with marriage and with feminine and feminist issues. On the surface, in both the plot and its title, the play seems to anticipate the conventional prurient associations, the convent as a place of sexual refinement. And then Acosta points out in Dryden's epilogue, highlights three of the commonplaces about convents that will persist through to the Gothic novel and until the 1960s. The expectation of perverse sexual content, voyeuristic satisfaction for a middle-class Protestant audience, who's going to say, well, that's not us, and then commercial profits, and then came to see this. Nonetheless, when you actually read the epilogue, it's not saying that at all. It's mocking the audience and ironically invoking these conventions that they have paid for, Dryden typically abusing his audience, and pointing out that the play has not, in fact, provided them and has another value system. Some have expected from our bells today to find a satire in our poet's play. The zealous rout from Coleman Street did run, he's mocking those civilians, to see the story of the friar and nun, or tales yet more ridiculous to hear, vouched by their vicar of £10 a year, of nuns who did against temptation pray, and discipline, which always meant whipping, by the way, discipline laid on the pleasant way, or that to please the malice of the town, our poet should in some close cell have shown some sister playing at content alone. Yes, that means what you think it means. This, I'm always saying that to my students, it means what you think it means. This they did hope, the other side did fear, and both you see alike our cousins here. Our poet meant no scandal in his play. His nuns are good, which on the stage are shown. And sure, behind our seats, you'll look for none. And if you want sex, you know where to go for it. In fact, and that's, of course, in my period, the women are on stage and generally considered available. In fact, Dryden's portrayal of the convent is far more moderate and far less prurient than those expectations. The abbess, who ultimately arranges the romantic marriages, is neither a prude nor a procuress, but a benevolent female authority who enables those matches, a bit like Queen Isabel in the Conquest of Granada, 1671. She is contrasted to the evil Uncle Mario, who is responsible for walling the girls up, not in a convent, but in their own house, and also to the ridiculously lustful Duke, who violates the sanctity of the cloister and tries to ravish the virtue of one of the other in the play. Male authority is parodied throughout the play, and female is vindicated. In the scene where the girls are discovered in one of their many attempts to escape and meet their lovers, they appeal directly, the truth will out, so they appeal to the abbess and claim a relationship with her as a superior, privileged relationship through the female blood, if you like, through their bodies. Pity your blood, which runs within our veins. And since the abbess is their aunt, I forgot to mention that, so she's sister to the evil Uncle Mario, okay? Since heaven puts it in your sole power to ruin or to save, protect us from the sordid avarice of our domestic tyrant. That phrase sums up just about half of Estelle's reflections on marriage. Who disturbs not that we should call him uncle or you brother. And the abbess responds in a similar vein. For you, dear nieces, I have long considered the injuries you suffer from my brother, and I rejoice it is in me to help you. I will endeavor from this very hour to put you both into your lover's hands, who by your own confession have deserved you. However, this comic resolution, which has feminist overtones, is itself, Dryden backs away from it in the end, and you get this sort of mockery of marriage according to the standard libertine script of passion is only lasting the wedding night and spousal alienation. So the play itself was not very successful, partly because it had these unsettling things coexisting. Comic resolution with feminist basis and the cynicism that responds. So those positive values of female independence and devotion seen in the just abbess and in Laura's Platonic ideals ultimately end up being parodied and their threat neutralized. It will remain for Dryden's own unperformed operatic version of Paradise Lost, that is the Fall of Innocence, written in the same year, to ask the questions that Estelle asks 20 years later. The unhappiest, this is Eve speaking, the unhappiest of creation's wife,